You have already heard that the Quakers date their epoch from Christ, who, according to them, was the first Quaker. I die adoring God, loving my friends, not hating my enemies, and detesting superstition. Business is the salt of life. All men would then be necessarily equal if they were without needs. It is the poverty connected with our species which subordinates one man to another. It is not inequality which is the real misfortune, it is dependence. Religion may be purified. This great work was begun 200 years ago, but men can only bear light to come in upon them by degrees. It is with books as with the fire in our hearths. We go to a neighbor to get the embers and light it when we return home, pass it on to others, and it belongs to everyone. Ancient histories, as one of our wits has said, are but fables that have been agreed upon. The best is the enemy of the good. The vice admiral thought his son crazy, but soon discovered he was a Quaker. A people that sells its own children is more condemnable than the buyer. This commerce demonstrates our superiority. He who gives himself a master was born to have one. Doctors are men who prescribe medicine of which they know little, to cure diseases of which they know less, for human beings of which they know nothing. The superfluous, a very necessary thing. Quite a heavy weight, a name too quickly famous. 100 years from my day there will not be a Bible in the earth except one that is looked upon by an antiquarian curiosity seeker. The King, Frederick, has sent me some of his dirty linen to wash. I will wash yours another time. If God did not exist, it would be necessary to invent him. I always made one prayer to God, a very short one. Here it is. O Lord, make our enemies quite ridiculous. God granted it. Prejudice is an opinion without judgment. It is dangerous to be right in matters where established men are wrong. It was in the reign of Charles II that they obtained the noble distinction of being exempted from giving their testimony on oath in a court of justice, and being believed on their bare affirmation. Superstition is to religion what astrology is to astronomy, the mad daughter of a wise mother. These daughters have too long dominated the earth. Thought depends largely on the stomach. In spite of this, those with the best stomachs are not always the best thinkers. To hold a pen is to be at war. The most original minds borrowed from one another. The art of medicine consists of amusing the patient while nature cures the disease. Fools have a habit of believing that everything written by a famous author is admirable. For my part, one read only to please myself and like only what suits my taste. We all look for happiness, but without knowing where to find it. Like drunkards who look for their house, knowing dimly that they have one. Our labor preserves us from three great evils: weariness, vice, and want. The first who was king was a fortunate soldier. Who serves his country well has no need of ancestors. "You're a bitter man," said Candide. "That's because I've lived," said Martin. In all countries, where the established religion is of a mild and tolerating nature, it will at length swallow up all the rest. Use, do not abuse, as the wise man commands. I flee Epictetus and Petronius alike. Neither abstinence nor excess ever renders man happy. The adjective is the enemy of the substantive. Let us read, and let us dance. These two amusements will never do any harm to the world. Books, like conversation, rarely give us any precise ideas. Nothing is so common as to read and converse unprofitably. We must here repeat what Locke has so strongly urged: define your terms. To pray to God is to flatter oneself that with words one can alter nature. It is very strange that men should deny a creator and yet attribute to themselves the power of creating eels. Divorce is probably of nearly the same age as marriage. I believe, however, that marriage is some weeks the more ancient. Nothing is so common as to imitate one's enemies, and to use their weapons. The Eternal has his designs from all eternity. Thus was a Quaker raised to sovereign power. Let the punishments of criminals be useful. A hanged man is good for nothing. A man condemned to public works still serves the country, and is a living lesson. God is a comedian playing to an audience too afraid to laugh. This body which called itself and which still calls itself the Holy Roman Empire was in no way holy, nor Roman, nor an empire. If God has made us in his image, we have returned him the favor. William answered that his conscience would not permit him to do these things. It is forbidden to kill. Therefore all murderers are punished unless they kill in large numbers and to the sound of trumpets. When we hear news, we should always wait for the sacrament of confirmation. Man is free at the instant he wants to be. Opinions have caused more ills than the plague or earthquakes on this little globe of ours. Let us cultivate our garden. It is better to risk sparing a guilty person than to condemn an innocent one. Virtuous men alone possess friends. It is sometimes said, common sense is very rare. If this is the best of possible worlds, what then are the others? It is sad that often, to be a good patriot, one must be the enemy of the rest of mankind. Where is the prince sufficiently educated to know that for 1700 years the Christian sect has done nothing but harm? His first care was to make an alliance with his American neighbors, and this is the only treaty between those people and the Christians that was not ratified by an oath, and that was never infringed. A minister of state is excusable for the harm he does when the helm of government has forced his hand in a storm, but in the calm he is guilty of all the good he does not do. No snowflake in an avalanche ever feels responsible,